Hello, and welcome to another episode of Steven Goes to the Movies, second of the day. This time I went and saw Aquaman, the new DC film, if you haven't heard about it. Directed by James Wan, starring Jason Momoa, Nicole Kidman, etc., etc. And it wasn't as bad as I was expecting. You know, when the first trailer came out, I've said before, I was extremely on the fence, ready to hate it out the gate. And then when I saw the second trailer that was released into theaters, it warmed me up to it a little bit because I saw a different kind of humor than I was expecting. A little bit more of like the dialogue of the movie. And again, it wasn't as bad as I was expecting it to be. It was definitely more fun than Vox Lux, which I saw earlier. Although it's not as much fun as Spider-Man, which also came out, which came out this week, versus Aquaman, which comes out next week. So for anyone living under a rock, this movie is about Aquaman. It's not really an origin story because we've already been introduced to him in Justice League and in the Batman v Superman movies. But it is sort of an origin story because we now see how he becomes the Aquaman of the comic books with the traditional yellow and green attire. Unfortunately though, while I do say that it was better than I expected, it still wasn't an amazing film by any means. I would argue that Wonder Woman was better than Aquaman, but those are definitely like the top two of the DC films. The reason I say that is because Wonder Woman's storytelling and effects and everything are more grounded in reality, while this movie, obviously because it's set under the sea, this movie is pure CG with the actors superimposed onto the models. What that does is it makes it hard to suspend your disbelief because the mind can't register all of this CG as anything real. For example, whenever they go underwater and their movement is strange, obviously, because they kind of float through the water. They never move their arms or legs. They just pulse through it or hover through it. And beyond that, we just suffer from the same issues like we saw in Venom and other movies that overly rely on CG effects, that anytime there's like a battle sequence, not only does it not make sense to be fighting underwater when they're just throwing each other around, but also the amount of spinning and looping and twirling and all kinds of stuff that they brought in to show that there's a lot of action movement. It got dizzying at points, and it was just a confusing, muddled mess that I wasn't overly excited about. Luckily, that's only early, middle, and then again at the end. The end battle scene was, epic, you could say, but again, because of all the CG, at points it got hard to comprehend it. And on top of that, it was hard to really feel a sense of urgency or, pain or struggle. Everything just kind of kept going, until the inevitable conclusion. The acting was solid. Jason Momoa did a great job. He really embodied the role in a good way. William Dafoe played his character as best he could, as the secretive mentor-y. Nicole Kidman, I don't understand really the casting of the role. She's a great actress, but that could have been anybody in that role. It's not like I think she brought something to it that no one else could, especially that she's blonde and blue-eyed, and the actor who plays Jason Momoa's dad, who also was Jango Fett, you know, he's a dark-haired, dark-eyed, tan-skinned gentleman, and Jason Momoa looks completely like him and nothing like her. And I feel like they probably could have done a little bit better job there. Dolph Lundgren was a surprise to see in the movie, and honestly, I dug his role. I've never seen him really act, I guess, because whether it was in Rocky or Creed 2 or the Expendable movies that he's in, he's just kind of always been like the grizzly, doesn't say much, you know, person. And in this, he had lines and a red hair. It was just like funny when he first appeared on screen. I was like, oh, I know that. I know who that is. And that was just kind of fun. The major aspect that I wasn't completely jiving with was Black Mantis. He's a good character, and the actor did a great job, but they don't set him up well. I don't feel like instantly when they made us understand it was the father and the son. I was like, okay, so the dad dies and he swears vengeance. Clearly that's what's about to happen, and guess what happened? But then later in the movie, like, I don't want to spoil it, but later in the movie he's doing these like techie kind of stuff that I go, how does he know how to do that? They haven't explained that somehow he's able to manipulate stuff without seemingly understanding what it is. And then again, at the end, we see him, and he's just the same one-note character, wanting vengeance, wanting Aquaman. Like, there's nothing changes there, and I didn't completely buy that. But I will say that I am looking forward to see what else they can do with the character now. You know, growing up, I was never much of like an Aquaman fan. I was more Batman than anyone else. Batman and Green Arrow were my two DC go-tos. Because Aquaman was just the dude that talked to fish, you know? But in this movie really kind of gave me this better feeling for him in a way that I want to see what else they can do and where else they can go with him. So would I recommend this movie? Yes, I would. I don't think they're showing it in 3D anywhere, but if they are, I would suggest avoiding that, because the amount of spinning and everything else that they do in some of these CG scenes, I think the 3D would only enhance any kind of queasiness that might come from it. But I do recommend seeing it, especially if you're on any of the movie subscription plans and it won't cost you anything. Go see it. If you're a DC fan and you're invested in seeing how the universe is progressing, again, go see it. Honestly, I don't have to say see it or not, because most people will probably give it a shot, unless you're Jason, my friend Jason, who literally told me yesterday that eating dirt would be more fun than watching this movie, and I gotta say you're wrong. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe and click the bell. I didn't say that this morning. And have a wonderful night.